Hello, beautiful friends, and welcome back into the channel. Welcome back to my beading mat. It is so good to be here. Thank you guys so much for joining me for today's tutorial. I have something really fun I want to do with you guys today. Now, it may look complicated, but it is not. Anybody can do this. And I thought of this over the last few days as I've been trying to rest and heal and get on the mend. And I think you guys are really going to enjoy this. So let me pull you into my headspace and let's design something beautiful. Now we're going to use the one-step looper for some of this today. And this is just going to basically be component heavy. And that's all this is making a whole bunch of components into this, guys. And let me get everything organized and we'll get working on this beautiful necklace. Okay, friends, I am back with all of my supplies in order to complete this project laid out. Let me walk you quickly through everything that we are going to use for this project. So, as mentioned, I am using 2 gauges of wire, so I have a 20 gauge piece that we are using for the components across. We're going to use some 24 gauge for our dangle drops. We are going to be using some head pins. So I have some flat head pins. You can use ball end or decorative, any kind that you have. That is going to be for our wire wrap, not the wire wrap, for the simple loop on our rectangles here. We are also going to be using just a selection of beads. You can use any beads you want. I have the cuboids, some 3mm silver rondelles, the rectangles in red, and the 14mm discs in clear. I am also using a link connector. You can use any connector you want for an asymmetrical, or you can skip that if you don't want an asymmetrical. I'm also going to be using some oval twisted curb chain. It's 5mm in silver. You can use absolutely any chain. I'm using the same chain around the back that I am for the dangles down the front. I am also going to use a regular lobster. I have 2 types of jump rings. The 6mm open jump rings are for the link and our closure. And then I have some 10mm jump rings that are closed. And these are obviously, as you can see, to connect all of our components in the center. So let's get started constructing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish making all of the components that go across here. And we'll complete putting that together first. So I have most of my components done, but one. Now I am using the one-step looper to make my components with the 20 gauge. So we need to make one of those. So let's do that. Okay, so I am going to grab my 20 gauge piece of wire and let me get you in here a little bit. Okay, and so to use the one-step looper, I am going to use my 1.5mm. You can use any size you want, but I don't need that big of a loop, right, for these closed jump rings across. So I'm using the 1.5. Okay, and I'm going to start out by flush cutting my end, right? So we'll have a nice simple loop. Now, when putting my wire in the one-step looper, to begin my component, I do not need to exit out the other side because that's just my choice. Now you can if you want, but it does also just waste wire, right? So when we're starting, you do want to clear the jaw right here. You definitely want to clear the jaw because that's what makes our loop. However, I do not need to go all the way through if I do not want to. But whatever you're comfortable with. So I'll just put my wire in. I'm going to make sure I clear that jaw there, okay? And then I'm going to go ahead and close. Now, while it's closed, I am going to bend that back a little bit, okay? And that just centers my loop. And then I will remove, okay? And now that's what I have. Now, sometimes the one-step looper is fussy, and that's why we have our round nose. If we need to pull that loop all the way in, and that's also why we have our chain nose on tab. Sometimes the one-step looper just has a mind of its own, but it does a lot of the work for us. Okay, so there's my simple loop. Now I need to cut, and I'm going to use the flush side of my cutters, my wire for the component, right? So I just need enough to put that bead on, really. Okay, so I'm just going to cut a small piece, about that much of that 20 gauge. And now I'm going to feed on a silver 3mm, the 14mm, and then another silver spacer. And now I'm going to make sure that my loop, the opening part, is facing away from me. This is important, so in a design like this, to ensure all of our loops, when we're putting them together, are facing down. So that would be the back of the necklace. I'm going to make sure that I'm turning my simple loops all the same direction. So I'm going to now put my wire in the one-step looper. Now I need to make sure I'm exiting the other side where that hole is, okay? And I am going to, again, make sure my open part of my loop is facing away from me. Going to hold that, place this right up against this jaw, right up against my bead there, okay? And then I'm gonna close. And now as I'm closing, before I close, so I do not crack my bead, I will pinch this back. And then I'm going to continue to close my one-step looper there. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and remove it. And that's what I have. So pretty good tool, the one-step looper. Okay, so there is that final component. Okay, now what I'm going to do is go ahead and finish connecting the components across to the jump rings. So I am going to use my chain nose for that, and let me get you way in here. Now I am going to again make sure that all of my loops are facing down. So I am going to grab this component. I am going to open up the loop by cranking it a little bit. Okay, and I'm gonna look to see which way is up, which way is down. The other way. So we're going, this way is down, okay? And then I'm just gonna attach my closed jump ring. Now, if you have any pretty links, you can accomplish the same look using any links. I'm going to close that loop really well. Okay, so that's what I have. Okay, now again, I want to make, if my loops are not facing the same way, I can just hold my loop with a pair of pliers, okay, and grab a second pair of pliers, hold the other loop, and turn them so that they are facing the same direction. So I'm going to turn this one all the way around. So they're both facing down. Was that the wrong way? Sure was. Okay, let me do that one more time. Let me get that turned the right way. You can always fiddle and turn our loops. So this one needs to come completely the other direction. Okay, and now I will close that again. Make sure that's nice and closed. Okay, and let me pull you out just a little bit. All right, and then we will continue the next one here. And we'll put that on there and close up our loop. And I'm just going to continue doing this all the way across. Same process all the way across, just making sure all of my simple loops are good and closed. Now, using the one-step looper is a really great idea in a project like this when you're making a lot of components, because it ensures also nice consistent size loops. But you can also use your round nose, maybe mark them with like a black marker, and you'll always ensure that you are making the same size loops. Just open that, add my close jump ring, and close that loop. I made 6 components across. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then you'd need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 closed jump rings. And these are 10 millimeter. So let me add my last 2 here. And now we're going to work on the drops in the middle. This is really super easy. We're just going to do a bunch of wire wrap loops and then a simple loop for our drop. Now, let me lay this out and show you what I did. Now, you could design this any way that you like, but I thought that I would be very intentional and make just a really dramatic, beautiful look here. And so in order to accomplish that, what I did here was I put 1 bead and then 2 and then 3 in the center. So it'll cascade just beautifully. So this side will mirror this side, and then we'll have that dramatic drop in the center. I also cut my chain links, specifically 4 links and then 5 links. We'll do 6 links here, and then we'll do the same over here, 5 and then 4. And similarly with the beads, the diagonals, I put 1 bead and then 2 and then 3. So I've increased my beads and increased my chain as I'm going down, okay? But you can do that any way you want. So we'll use our head pin, our 24 gauge wire, and then we will use our chain here, and we're just gonna connect them. What I'm gonna do is start by grabbing a piece of 24 gauge wire, again, making sure that I am flush cut. I'm gonna come down about 1 inch, so it's really like about 2 finger spaces or so. And I'm gonna put a bend in my wire. Okay, you don't need much wire for your wire wrap component dangles because I think the more minimalist, the better. But you can do 1 wrap, 2, 3, 4, 5. Really, it's up to you. But we are gonna wire wrap this to our closed jump ring and to the chain. Okay, so I've got my bend and I've got my L. Now I'm gonna go in with my round nose right in that bend, and I just need rather small loops. So I'm gonna go about there on my plier, and I'm gonna pull this wire up and around to hug the front of my tool. I'm gonna open the tool, now put the pressure on the top of the wire, and then continue to push this wire to the back. Okay, so we have our little lollipop head here. Okay, now we are going to open that loop, and this is where I will be careful that I am wire wrapping it on the right side. So we want to lay it down, make sure that we're adding this on the correct side of the wire. So I know for sure it's gonna go there. Okay, great. Now I can safely pick it up. Okay, and then we will grab a couple pair of pliers. We'll close the door there and hold that. And we'll just wrap this around a couple times, do a couple of clean wraps. That already started out completely wrong. Let me fix that. Okay. So we'll go around a couple wraps here. And those are some pretty ugly wraps, I must say. We'll fix them in a minute. Oh my goodness. Okay. I am going to now, to fix those, let me straighten out my wire. Let me look at that, and well, it doesn't look too bad. It's actually not as bad as I thought. Pinch those together just a little bit. And let me trim the excess there. And make sure I've got that tucked in. Okay, and before I continue, I am going to double check myself. That is correct, that it's hanging the way it needs to hang. Okay, and it does. And now I will add my 3 beads. So I have 3 of my cuboids with the diagonal cut. We'll add those there. And then we will put a bend in the wire. So we'll grab our pliers. We're gonna go right up against that bead. Okay, we'll put a right bend in. And then I'm gonna come back in here with my round nose. I'm gonna do the beginning of a wire wrap loop, but we'll add the chain. So up and around, rotate the plier, put the pressure to the top, push the wire to the back. Make sure that's straight. Okay, we'll open that up. We're gonna add that last link of chain, slide that down, let that fall right in that loop, and we will grab our chain nose. Let's close the door there, and we'll hold that and wrap it up. And we'll trim and tuck. And there we go. Now I am going to, let's get back in the saddle here where we're at. Okay, there we go. Okay, and so now I'm gonna grab a head pen and one of my rectangles. And we're just gonna do a simple loop here, guys. So we'll just put a bend in the wire. Okay, and I usually use my finger as a guide. So I'm just gonna rest the bead on my finger here. And it's about 1/4 of an inch or so. And I'm just gonna trim what I don't need, and we'll roll in a simple loop. So use my finger width kind of as a guide when I'm doing my simple loops. Probably about right there. I'll grab my round nose. We'll go right to the edge of that wire, and we'll roll in a simple loop. And I don't like that loop, so I'm going to fix it. These are stainless steel head pins, so that works. So a thick gauge head pen will be your friend in a project like this when you're doing simple loops to make sure that our drops do not fall off. So that's what I have. And now I'm going to open that loop, and I'm just going to add it to the last piece of my chain. I'm going to do the same thing all the way across. I'll do one more with you, so we're going to close that up. Make sure that's nice and closed there, friends. And I'm going to hold the bottom of that head pen. And if I need to go to the side, I will do so. I just want to make sure that loop is closed because that chain is thin, and I do not want it falling off. So I'm going to definitely take my time. Now, you could have also used your one-step looper there if you want to make your simple loops. You certainly can. In fact, if you want to do simple loops on this whole project, guys, you can use the one-step loop for this entire project rather than the wire wrap loops. So I'm going to pull you out and in. Let's lay this beauty out and see where we're at and continue on. Okay, so there we go. That is where I'm at so far. And that's what that looks like. Oh, so beautiful. Okay, let's move over here to the next link. Pull you out a little bit here. Okay, and let me move this over. And again, we do want to make sure everything is laying the way we want it to lay. So all of my openings of my loops, guys, is facing towards my beading mat. Sorry, I'm over here at an angle trying to look and see and make sure that everything is nice and closed. Because basically this is just really a simple connecting. It's like connect four. We're connecting everything and adding the chain. This really is not as time consuming as this video seems because I'm explaining as we go. But guys, this is just so grab your one-step looper and literally you're off to the races playing Connect 4. By the way, I love that game. I don't know where things just come out of my headspace. Okay, guys, so let's go ahead and do one more together. All right, so I have a 24 gauge piece of wire here. And let me move this just a little to the side. Okay, and let's put that bend in the wire. Okay. And on this one, we need to do 2 of the diagonals, right? Because we just did those, so we'll go 3, 2, 1. So there's the bend. We'll come in with our round nose. Right in that bend, come up and around with a start of a wire wrap loop. There's a lollipop head. And now what we're going to do is open that. And again, I am going to add that right there on my closed jump ring to make sure it's going to be on the right side here. So let me take that out and do that again. Okay, so you're going to go right there. And then we will do the beads after we wrap this. So I'm going to go and close the door there. And just need a couple of good wraps here. Okay, and then we'll trim. I'm going to add my 2 cuboids. And then same thing, I am going to put a bend in my wire. I'm going to go right to the top of that bead. And put our bend in. Come in that bend with our round nose. Up and over with the wire. Rotate our tool, put the pressure on the top of the wire. Continue to push that wire to the back. And then kind of straighten that out. Before we close that, I'm going to open that, and we'll add that 5 link of chain. So that's my, is that it? 1, 2, yes. And I'll put that last link of chain right down my wire, let that fall into my loop, close the loop, and then we will wrap this around. Sorry guys, I forgot to turn my phone off. And it's across the room, wouldn't you know? There, enjoy my jingle. Oh my word. I am so sorry about that, guys. Well, there's my ringtone. Ay, vey. Okay. Tuck that in, and now we'll do a simple loop with a head pin. And so we'll put that on there. Put a bend in the wire. I use my finger as a guide. And we'll trim down to about 1/4 inch or so. And then we'll just roll in a simple loop. And we'll pop that loop open, add it to that last link of chain. Close that loop well. Okay, and then we'll lay it back out. I will continue to finish across, and then we will finish the back. So I have finished going all the way across, and I added my chain. Let me show you what we have. Guys, oh my gosh, this is out of control. This is so beautiful. Okay, there we go. We do a thing. We do a flip because, you know, that's what we do. And then everything is hanging correctly. So that is what I have, my friends. Oh, this is going to drape so beautifully. I just cut my chain to length. Any length that you want this to hang. I wanted to hang a little higher, so I didn't cut much chain. And I just attached that to, on the right here, I just attached my chain to my component right here. Okay, so that's all that is. Made sure my loop was good and closed. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is add this chain to a jump ring to connect this component on the top and the bottom. So let me grab my chain. I am going to open a jump ring. Put that component on that, add that piece of chain, and we'll close that jump ring back up. And these are clicking, locking jump rings, which is helping my cause. And now we'll grab another jump ring, and we will add that to the component, but also make sure that that loop is good and closed on our last component there. So we'll put the link on first, and I will take a look to make sure that my loop is perfectly closed, and it is. And we'll add that right on there and close that jump ring up. And now I am going to add this jump ring, this last one I have, to the lobster clasp. Leave that open, and I am going to just simply lay this out. Let me pull you guys out, cut it, and add a clasp. Now, I am not going to add a jump ring on this side for my closure because I can click, my lobster, guys, on any link of my chain because it's curved chain, right? It's basically the same size as my jump ring. So, serves the same purpose. And so we'll lay this out. So we need to just make sure that our center one here, that's really the most important thing I'm looking at. I'm going to pull that all the way down. That gives me the center of my necklace. Okay, so that's going to be how that lays. Let me continue to pull that down. And let me grab my cutters. we will cut that center link of chain right there. And add our jump ring and a clasp. And let's see what we have, my friends. Oh, this is just too pretty. I hope you guys enjoyed a very long video making a beautiful, beautiful necklace. And again, you could make that, you could have made that, you know, any length you wanted your chain. So I can now clasp this anywhere I want to make it adjustable. So this is right at around 22 inches, but that's why I didn't, that's why you, two things, guys, sorry. That's two things. One, why I use the curb chain, because it really is great for, you know, chain extender, whatever. So I can clasp my lobster to any link of the chain and have this any length I want, if I want to have it more as a choker, or I want to have it longer, either way. So that would work. What I also, last thing I'm going to do, by the way, finishing touches, my friends, is I thought that I would add a beautiful red bicone just because, just because I want to, as a dangle right here. You know, you could do several for that matter. Let me grab another headpin and let's do that. So I am going to use a ball-end headpin and just do some little dangles on the back here with some, I'm gonna do some simple loops. So we'll just go like that, and just need some round nose and some cutters. And we'll roll in a simple loop here. And pop that open. I'm going to add that to that last link of chain. Close that up, nice and secure. And then I am going to actually add a darling little green bicone. That's a little 4mm. Right there. And same thing, we'll put a bend and we'll trim. And make a simple loop. And I can add that anywhere I want. I'm just going to go the link directly above that link. And close it up. I hope you guys enjoyed today's tutorial and you are inspired to make a beautiful chain and link component necklace. And this is going to be just called my Crystal Cascade. Let's call it the Crystal Cascade because that's just exactly, look at that. Oh my gosh, it's just stunning. Okay guys, I'm going to put this way. And this is what we have, basically. And get it all in here. That's what we have, guys. I know it looks so funny on the mat, but boy, is that going to drape beautifully on the body. I love the asymmetrical, you know, that's kind of my signature. And then we've got the dangles on the back, and we can clasp that anywhere on the curb chain. I hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll see you in the next one, friends. Have an awesome rest of your day, and be well.